want to break free. I want to break free from your lies. You're so self-satisfied. I don't need you. I've got to break free. God knows I want to break free.
This is Infants on Thrones. Philosophies of men mingled with humor. We are the core.
One more minute with you. Yes, I'd rather jump naked on a huge pile of thumbtacks. I'll stick my nostrils together with crazy glue. I'd rather dive into a swimming pool filled with double-edged razor blades than spend one more minute with you. I'd rather rip my heart right out of my rib cage with my bare hands and then throw it on the floor and stomp on it till I die. Then spend one more minute with you.
Welcome back to Infants on Thrones. I'm Glenn Ostland, and in true Mormon form, I'm both incredibly proud and incredibly humbled to be able to present this episode to you today. Now, as many of you know, nearly 2,000 people gathered in Salt Lake City today, which is Saturday, November 14th, to participate in an LDS Mass Resignation event. Now, earlier this week, a listener named Sage reached out to us and said that he was planning on doing some man-on-the-street interviews. He'd go around asking people, why are you doing this? What does this mean to you? What are the issues that brought you to this place, etc.? And he asked us if we were interested in this kind of audio. And we said, of course we are. So Sage and a few of his friends both participated in this event and also interviewed dozens of people around them and sent us a bunch of audio. We've used a lot of it here, and so thank you for doing this, Sage. We're going to be having our own one-on-one with him and learn more about his story soon. But now, without any further ado, Man on the Street interviews from the LDS Mass Resignation of November 14th, 2015. Thank you very much, Sage.
Okay, we're officially recording, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Lauren.
Okay. My name is Lauren Elise McNamara, and I'm one of the coordinators here at the LDS Mass Resignation.
And I'm David McNamara, her husband and participant.
Perfect. So it is an honor to be here with you guys. We're actually here personally. We're participating in the event, but we're doing double duty. But the question I have for you, first and foremost, is why organize this event? So that's the first question.
Well, when we first saw the news hits, it was online. I wandered off. Dave and I were watching a TV show, and I put it on pause to look up something. And as far as he knew, I wandered off and never came back, which was a little rude on my part. But I saw what had happened, and I had actually announced that I was planning on to resign several weeks prior to that, but didn't feel ready to actually put in the paperwork. And when I saw the announcement, I said, that's it. I don't want my name on this. This has to happen now. And I went into a couple of my forums that I am involved in on Facebook, and I said, this is where I'm at. And several other women particularly concurred and said, we need to go. This is terrible. There seemed to be a real outcry online. And I kind of jokingly said, maybe it's time for another mass resignation. Kate Kelly is a friend of mine on Facebook where we don't really know each other very well, but I've met her a couple times. And she was a speaker at the last one. So I reached out to her and I said, do you know if anyone's doing one of these in regards to this? And she said immediately, why don't you do it? And I didn't even understand what she meant at first. But as soon as it clicked, I said, are you sure? Okay, yeah. And I went back in my groups and I said, if no one else is doing this, is this a need? Do you guys is this what you need to happen? And it was an overwhelming yes, please, we need this to happen. So some of the women put me in contact with some people in John Dellen's forum online who were having a similar conversation. And we put the event up, and immediately I was contacted by several people who had put together the last few mass resignations, and we just hit the ground running.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to get your husband in just a second, too, but I'm going to finish the line of questions with you. And so As most people know, last night there was a release, or sometime yesterday there was a release of a quote-unquote clarification coming from the church. Has that changed any of the tone of this, or has that had any impact that you can tell either on yourself or some of the people that were planning on attending?
Well, it hasn't had any impact on me. I have a PR background, and I find it to be backpedaling, and this is still a church that's been openly discriminating against people for a number of years, that's been actively against civil rights and the rights of many people, women, people of color, and the LGBT community for decades. So this was just to move further in that direction, and to take a half step back, really didn't make a difference for me. There was talk in the communities of people that were kind of still waiting for the church to make clarification, that hadn't made a decision, that may have made a difference for them. But as far as people that were done, this was already a compound effect. This was not one thing.
Perfect. So I think the question on a lot of people's minds is why resign? Why not just step away? Or why not go quietly? Why do this? Why actually publicly? Well, why resign at all, but also why publicly resign?
Well, two reasons. One, to make a statement to the church to say this is not okay what you're doing and how you're treating people. But more importantly, it's actually really difficult to leave the LDS Church. I'm an adult convert. I'm not from Utah. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people tend to lose everything when they leave the church. I like to say that you can judge the Christianity of an organization by how easy or hard it is to leave. And when people leave this church, sometimes they lose whole families. There doesn't seem to be a lot of respect for people's process, for their freedom of choice, of agency, for their freedom of religion and freedom of speech. And so a lot of people, even though they were ready to make this decision, didn't really feel safe to do it. They are sacrificing potential relationships within their family who aren't going to respect this decision. And so we needed a safe place for them to do this, to say, even if you're going to lose some community back home, you have a new community if you need it.
Perfect. So this is my final question. What would you say to people that, they're not necessarily here today, but they're close. They're considering resigning. They're considering what is the next step because they realize the church is not the place for them. What advice would you give to them?
Well, first of all, I would say, don't do anything you're not ready to do. Spirituality is really, really personal. Don't let anybody make you stay. Don't let anybody make you go. But mostly do what you feel in your heart is right for you and what makes you feel safe and what makes you feel loved. So if you're ready to leave, the process for the LDS Church is actually kind of complex and a little bit, dragged out. So there are forums online, there are websites. Mark Nagel has offered his services as legal representation to make the process a lot shorter and a lot easier, and I do recommend that to anyone who wants to go through the process and just make it a little bit simpler.
Perfect. So there's one little sort of tagline thing that we're having everybody say. So if you would look at the camera, if you're comfortable, and say, it's all we're saying is, it's okay, you are loved, you can go.
Okay. That got me. Wow. It's okay. You are loved. You can go.
Thank you. All right, Josh, you ready? All right, here we are, and it's Mark? David. I don't even know where Mark came from. It's one of those names. Okay, so we were here with David, and I'm going to hand the mic over to you, and if you would just look at the camera and similarly just say your full name and what your role is in this event.
I'm David McNamara. My wife Lauren's one of the organizers, and I'm a participant of the event.
Is it okay if we use this publicly in the podcast? Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So, David, are you actually resigning today? And if so, why are you doing this?
I am resigning today. And for me, I'm also not originally from the Mormon church. I converted as an adult, so I don't have a lot of family ties that I'm worried about losing. But for me, what this is really about is a statement that, the idea that this isn't a topic open to discussion, that we can't sit down and have a civil discourse about these issues, and acknowledge the fact that both sides have legitimate points to them, is unacceptable. All right, and I want to make sure that, in my opinion, that statement is clear to the church, that this is not an acceptable way to move forward, where we just dismiss different viewpoints and say that ours is the only way forward.
Awesome. So I've heard a lot of people say that, all that resigning does is just sort of hurt yourself, right? That this doesn't impact the church. All you're really doing is just sort of, now going into the shadows. Do you agree with that sentiment? And if not, how can resigning actually have an impact?
Well, first off, I don't necessarily agree that it's just hurting yourself. I think a lot of the people that are here today resigning are doing so because they're already hurt, and they're trying to stop that hurt from continuing on. So in a sense, right away, it's a beneficial for the person in question. But more than that, I've seen that this is a church that changes very slowly. And that change often comes about because of the protests of former members, because they see the membership dwindling and the membership complaining. If we don't speak out and try to enhance our understanding of the gospel and try to enhance our understanding of what it means to be divine, then the church will just stay where it is and no progress will be made. And everybody in the church is hurt by that.
So your wife mentioned, and it seems like a lot of people here today are here because of the recent policy change. Is that one of the reasons that you're here as well? Is that one of the things that pushed you that direction? And I'm actually just asking right now real quick. Yes, it is. Okay. So the question I have then is, why this issue? Why now? Because, I think the church has a sort of a history of doing shitty things to people. But, why was this such a flashpoint, do you think, both maybe for yourself and for the people that are coming to your event?
Sure. Well, I'm hesitant to speak for anybody else. But for me, it was a flashpoint because from the time at which I had joined the church about 5 years ago till now, there'd been a distinct softening of the stance, in my opinion, right? There was still a condemnation, but they were at least making overtures to be more open to the discussion, to be more open to the ideas that might be presented by the other side. What this said that was a misconception. People were misunderstanding us. We're not open at all. And we want to make that perfectly clear to everybody. This is them shutting the door in our face, not the other way around.
Perfect, David. That is awesome. So, similar final question. What advice do you give to anybody that is currently struggling right now or is contemplating making the next step in their life? What advice do you have for them?
Just to educate yourself, like Lauren said, this is obviously a very personal issue for everybody, your membership in the church or spirituality, and don't let anyone else make the decision for you. Don't be afraid to do the research. Don't be afraid to talk to people on both sides of the question and see what all the viewpoints are and see which one resonates with you the best. See which one, you agree with and seems true to you in your heart.
Perfect. And then, David, if you would just similarly look into the camera and give us that little byline, it's okay, you are loved, you can go.
It's okay, you are loved, and you can go.
David, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Good job on this event.
My name is Kimberly, and I am here today because, well, first of all, I was born into Mormonism, and I grew up very active in the church. I believed it with all of my heart. I've served as primary president, I've served in Young Women's presidency, and I was a Relief Society president. And then I met the love of my life, actually, at church. Another woman in our ward, and we have been together for nearly 12 years now. In fact, we'll be married legally on our 12th anniversary. And I did have children from a previous marriage. And I am here today to stand up for all children because call me an apostate, call me immoral, call me whatever you want to. I don't really care. But when we're taking children and separating them into a different group and categorizing them as an other, as a separate, as an ostracized group in a community, that is very wrong. And I have to stand up for these kids. I have to stand up for the underdogs against church-sanctioned bullying, which is what this new policy does. Even with the softening of the policy, it doesn't change that. Any child from a divorce situation where they started out in the church, and then what it's going to do is it's going to also alienate the gay parent by setting up a situation where extended family members and church and things are going to, kind of alienate the gay parent and fight for custody for the religious parent, whether that's the right thing for the child or not. The gay parent is going to be the alienated parent. And I've seen it already occurring since this has been in the media. I have a cousin that's going through a divorce right now, and the divorce was going very smoothly until these policies and then the amended one came out. I think the amended one is even worse for this situation because it will alienate that parent, and she is clearly the better parent, and yet now everyone is throwing their support around the father who's actually mentally ill, but nobody wants the child now to go with the capable mother because she happens to be gay. So it's really rather unfortunate.
Kimberly, thank you for that. And I'm also celebrating my 12-year anniversary this year, too, so congratulations. We're 12sies. So everything that you talked about was very well said. I might have you elaborate on a few points just briefly. So the first one, of course, is I think it's clear that the fact that this policy impacts children has set off, that's kind of what set off the firestorm. It touches a nerve. But I love that you also mentioned that, what's being forgotten I think in many of these discussions is the parents themselves, right, of the children. So it's like, oh, how dare you touch the children, but, what about the parents, and the policy impacts them just as much. So if you would, could you maybe just give me a little bit of insight as to, how is it that not only the children in this case are impacted, but the parents as well?
Okay, so in divorcing situations, judges look at how the child has been raised previously to the divorce. They want the child to continue on with the same set of morals and values and situations, the church that they've been raised in to that point. And so that automatically kind of disqualifies the gay parent as to being the one to have the majority share of the custody. And it leaves it rather ambiguous, too, the way the handbook policy has been clarified. A lot of divorce cases, especially of younger children, the parents are getting 50-50 custody. So what does that do in that situation? It's not clear with the clarification even. And so I can see that over time, this will just continue to further alienate the gay parent as extended family throws their support around the religious parent, the religious non-gay parent.
That's excellent. Thank you. So you mentioned sort of the clarification, and I've heard people say things like, well, this is actually going to hopefully lead to less confusion in children's lives, sort of throwing that somehow making this policy clarifies things somehow. What do you have to say to that?
So there's two different situations I see happening. One situation is where gay parents are either they either got together and then decided to have children, like, say, for example, adoption and or in vitro fertilization. And in those situations, most, even if they came from a Mormon background, are not really choosing to raise their children in the Mormon church. Who this really affects in a very, very negative way are families that are that originally came from Mormonism. Even if a parent was gay, they were trying to do the straight hetero thing and got married, in Mormonism and raised their children in Mormonism. Now that they're divorcing, that is the situation where choices are having to be made, and somebody's going to be in and somebody's going to be out. And in this situation, and probably this is what the church wants anyway, is for that gay parent to be ostracized. And I forgot the original question.
That's okay. That was great. I'm going to go with that. So I have one final question. What advice do you give to anybody that is feeling that conflict, that is feeling like they need to do something to distance themselves from the church, but they're scared or, feel like they don't have that permission? What advice do you give to anybody right now that wants to make that next move but is hesitant or scared?
So that's a good question, and it kind of runs the gamut depending on where you are at right now. There are people that I know who haven't been to church for decades, don't really believe it. For them, leaving the church is not a painful process, and it feels good to take the power a little bit and distance yourself from what many see as a bigoted, prejudiced organization. I would say for people who are still active members, but this does not sit right with them, there's a reason it does not sit right with you, and you should listen to your conscience. I feel like, this is the guide that we've all been given in our lives, that moral compass that we need to listen to, and I feel like a lot of times in the church we're taught to ignore that little voice. When things don't quite seem right, whether it's about polygamy or Mountain Meadows Massacre or strange things in the temple or anything like that, we're kind of taught to ignore things that don't feel right and just trust our leaders. But they've come out and said that they are not infallible, and they have made mistakes in the past, and I feel like this is a current mistake. And so trust that and stand up for what's right, whether you stay within the church to do that or whether you leave. But there is a power in not letting the religion, the dogma, have rule over you. There's a freedom in moving to the other side of that. And for some people, it's quite a journey. For me, it was because I had believed it with all my heart. It took me a couple of years to kind of process and unlearn everything I'd been learned. And I had to kind of figure things out for myself. It's kind of like when I realized the church wasn't true, it's like I had been putting everything as a Mormon, everything that I believed in, into this drawer. I had a testimony of prayer, I had a testimony of church attendance, I had a testimony of all these things. And when I realized the church wasn't true, and it's like this whole drawer got dumped, and I'm looking around at this mess thinking, what do I pick up again? What do I believe in? And it took me a while to really flesh that out and figure it out. But now I live with more integrity and more honesty than I ever have, because I've been able to say, this is what's right. Being kind to others is right. Opening your arms to everyone is right. And I've been able to move on and kind of establish that for me, organized religion is not really necessary for me in my life. I would say I'm kind of a spiritual person. I love the human race, period. And I'm just, my religion's to do good to all men, and that's where I'm at, and that's what fits for me. But other people find other churches. Other people just do all kinds of different things, and so you just have to find what fits and feels right for you.
That was awesome. So we have sort of one tagline thing we're having everybody say, only if you're comfortable, but you probably will be, because all we're having people say is, it's okay, you are loved, you can go.
It's okay, you are loved, so loved, and you can go.
Kimberly, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
You don't own me. I'm not just one of your many toys. You don't own me. Don't say I can't.
So, as you mentioned, my name's Sam. I am here just to basically show support. I am not necessarily on the edge, I'm not ready to take the plunge for resignation right now, but in the last 2 or 3 years, I've really seen a big shift in my personal journey, basically diving into church history, also diving into, the social issues that the church participates in and sometimes creates itself. And I just see either leaving without resignation or resignation itself are perfectly fine avenues for people to continue their spiritual journey, and I want to support them and at least let them know that people are here who maybe aren't resigning, but still love them and feel that that's, again, a perfectly healthy avenue for them, and probably in the long run could turn out to be a better spiritual home for them outside the church than in.
So what was your reaction to the recent policy change?
So the policy change itself was a gut punch, obviously. And I saw it late I think it was Thursday night. And the first reaction was, shock and dismay and like, no, this couldn't happen. No way. And then subsequent, well, yeah, of course it could, because if you know a thing about church history or the way the church operates, of course it could happen. And, the thing that was more damaging for me, more than the policy, although I certainly empathize with all our gay and lesbian brethren and sisters and their plight, and I have a deep empathy for them. For me, personally, the deeper impact was the aftermath, and the aftermath on social media and the news, and perfectly good, sane, rational, empathetic, lovely people flipping the switch and putting a rubber stamp approval on this policy simply because they believe so-and-so speaks to God and says that it's okay. And in no uncertain terms, rationalizing bigotry because, God's not a bigot. When he says it, it's not bigotry. That type of a reaction. Having conversation with my parents and basically having to say to them, like, the age-old discussion between a parent and a child where the parents are saying, we raised you better than this. I literally had a conversation with my parents of, like, you raised me better than this, and you're better than this. Like, I don't understand how you can support this. And just having them be completely oblivious to the irony there, and just this, you're better than this discussion. And it was really sad for me. So for me, the damage was done by the policy, but also the rank and file acceptance of the membership.
So, Sam, what would you say? Because I've heard this. I heard like lots and lots of active members saying, "Oh, this made me so mad," or I don't agree. But I feel like the time of neutrality is really over. So, what would you say is the responsibility now of the active members if they actually don't agree with this?
That's a good question. I think everybody's searching that out for themselves. Had a lot of conversations last night with a group that we are a part of that we're trying to figure things out and trying to attend, but also trying to move the needle. And I think it's everybody that goes through this has the exact same discussion in their head. How much is it worth to push this boulder up the hill? How much pain and suffering is it worth to keep trying to move this and then push and push and push only to have that boulder roll on top of you and smash you and then go back and try it again? So for me, I feel like my responsibility is to continually weigh the empathy for members, and also for me, like kind of taking an empathetic approach for them and saying, I don't necessarily think it's their fault they think this way, They have been institutionally, they're institutionally raised to think this way. And so being empathetic to their plight, but also weighing the pain and estrangement you feel at church versus the potential good you could do is a balancing act. So for me, it's when that estrangement and that pain and that complete, misidentity or not being able to identify with the people who are around me, when that becomes too great, then that's going to be a signal for me to just part ways.
So you mentioned earlier that you're personally okay if people decide to step away or go, or here we are at a resignation. Tell me, how can an active member square that concept away? Because isn't it giving up your eternal salvation forever and ever and ever?
That's true. And I guess on the face of it, that's exactly what it is. If you're a true, believing, active member who literally believes every single word that comes out of the prophet's mouth, then that is technically, giving up your salvation for a mess of porridge, as they say. But I don't know how they square that away. I wouldn't consider myself a totally... while I'm active in that I attend every week, I'm far from believing. I think I've come to that realization over the last couple of years. So for me, because I don't believe the church is the only true church of God, and I don't believe that Tommy Monson speaks to God in his, special room, and I'm not being degrading, I'm trying not to be, but I just don't believe that. And so I think there are many avenues to God, and there's more good outside the church and in, if nothing else, just by the sheer size of everything else relative to the church. So there are plenty of paths to goodness and truth, and the church can be an impediment to that, to many or most.
Just a couple more questions. So tell me, how much better do you feel now that the church actually did clarify their stance just a day ago?
Too little, too late. The damage has been done. I will give props where props are due, which is they saw the damage this policy would cause across the board and decided to lessen that. Now, whether they did that out of the goodness of their heart or they had that original intent, if they had that original intent, then you have to realize that they're completely inept, right? Because you don't put a rule in a handbook full of legal jargon and carefully chosen words without thinking about that for a long time and seeing how that would actually play out. But public opinion has been so outrageous that I feel like they felt like they had to soften it. But the damage is done, and same-sex couples are still excluded. Their children are still excluded. The casualties are lowered, but they're still there. Just because, 100 people are affected instead of 1,000, that's still 100 people that are affected. And I know that's not literal numbers, but the damage is done, and the rank and file membership are still in agreement. They're going to defend it at all costs, and I realize that for me, that's just as bad, if not worse.
Okay, so last question. So what would you say to anybody that really was struggling, really did feel like they needed to make some sort of change, needed to do some sort of forward-pushing action in their lives, but they feel scared or feel like they don't necessarily have the permission, or they don't know if they can?
I guess my suggestion for them would be to take it slow, think it through, no rash decisions, because not necessarily the rash decision is wrong, it's just that you never have the opportunity to take something back. But go slow, and then there's a real power that comes from owning your own spiritual experience. And once you are okay with owning your own spiritual experience, whatever you choose will be best for you. I'm confident of that. So once you own that, and you feel that no one else can really tell you what you should or shouldn't do, and you have that connection with whatever higher power you believe in, then you lose that sense of needing to ask for permission. You lose that sense of, is this okay? You just do it, and it feels great, and the freedom that it brings is very meaningful.
All right, so if you can give us our little tagline thing, we've been having people say, it's okay, you are loved, you can go.
Okay, well, lesbian and gay brothers and sisters, those who sympathize, those who are questioning or hurting or don't feel like they have a place, it's okay, you are loved, and it's okay to leave.
Thanks, Sam.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are filling up their glasses, no expression.
All right, Josh, you filming? Okay, and was it Marilee? All right, I'm here with Marilee. I'm going to hand the mic to her. And Marilee, if you would just give me your name, and if you would just say why you are here today, and then I'll have some more follow-up questions.
My name is Marilee Beebe, and I'm here today because anything that marginalizes and stigmatizes children and that marginalizes and stigmatizes gays is just unacceptable. It's just, I can't tolerate it. I've served a mission for this church. I've been Young Women's President. I've taught Sunday school. I've taught Relief Society. This is not the church I know. This is not following the Savior. And that's why I'm here.
Excellent. So I know for a lot of people it was the recent policy change that, caused a problem. Tell me, has your opinion of that change has been softened by the church's clarification that they've recently come out with?
If anything, the clarification made it worse. They're trying to justify the unjustifiable. It cannot be justified. It's just wrong. You're talking about children. I'm a school teacher. It's an impossible. It's impossible. Even friends of mine who are completely devout are having so much trouble with this policy.
I'm going to try to make sure you guys don't lose your place in line. So, Marilee, tell me, why resignation? A lot of people would say that, well, by doing that, you're really only just hurting yourself. You're not actually making a difference. What would you say to that? Why have you made this choice today?
Well, I've actually been an atheist for over a decade, but I'm technically on the church rolls. And I was just too lazy. I'm not against the church. I have people I love very much who are in the church. And I don't want to attack the church. I'm not like some vicious person. I just cannot be associated in any way with this policy. It's just an impossible. I just can't even. There aren't even words. You're talking about children, stigmatizing children, marginalizing them, making their family less than. How is that godly? It's just horrible.
Thank you. So tell me, for what have to be at least thousands, if not more, of people who are right now facing some really tough decisions.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm talking about active members or people who have been struggling for a while but feel like they need to make that one extra step, but are maybe a little scared or maybe feel like they don't have permission. What do you have to say to those people?
Well, my friend who is incredibly devout, she says it's a policy, it's not doctrine. It hasn't been given common consent by the church. If it ever were introduced as doctrine, congregants could stand up in conference and say, I disagree with this policy. And if you're struggling, it's so personal. It's really up to that person. It's their salvation. It's their moral compass. It's their integrity. They have to do what's right for them. Nobody can make that call for them but them. And I would just say to them that I love you. If your family rejects you and if the church rejects you, I love you, and everybody here loves you, because our love isn't conditional and it's not tainted. That's what I would say.
So, Mary, I have just one more question, and then we have a little statement that we're having everybody say. But first, the question is, the church says that this actually is being done to prevent confusion in the children of families of gays or lesbians. I'd like to know sort of your take on what do you think this policy is, the impact this policy is actually going to have on those families.
It's going to make children, if children were trying to be devout Mormons and their parents are being treated this way, it's going to make them feel that their parents are wrong or less than, and that they're going to just feel compromised. They're not going to. I don't know. My niece is gay, and she's the kind of person that brings home, broken, lost souls and interesting, quirky people. She's just the most compassionate, loving person in the world, and anybody would be so lucky to have her as a parent. And to have any child think less of her or feel less than by being mothered by her is a crime. It's not right. It's so inaccurate to who she is, the loving, beautiful person that she is. And everybody has gay relatives. We all have people that we love that are gay. I mean, it's just not okay. They have a right to love somebody and get married. I have the right to love somebody and get married. They should have the right to love somebody and get married. And they should have the right to have their children, if it's their wish, be blessed or baptized. Because children are innocent. And even if they're cut off from the church, which is a horror in itself, their children should not be punished.
That was very well said. Okay. So our final thing, we're having everybody say this, only if you're comfortable, but I think you will be. We're having everybody say, it's okay, you can go, you are loved. Actually, it's okay, you are loved, you can go. Okay. I knew I had it right. I want to make sure you get it right. Does that sound all right? Yeah. All right, here it is with Mike. So again, it's okay, you are loved, you can go.
It's okay, you are loved, you can go.
Once I ran to you, now I run from you. This tainted love you've given, I give you all a boy could give you. Take my tears and that's not nearly all tainted love.
Hey, my name's Elijah, like the Bible. I'm here for reasons twofold. One, a very good friend of mine's doing a journalism project, and she's documenting the stuff. Two, I left the church, quote unquote, left the church when I was like 10 years old, youngest of a family of 5, all Mormon. And from that, for the next 11 years, it was not a thing in my life. Like, I had my rebellious period where I was anti-theistic and I was like rabble-rousing and shit, and then stuff happened and I was like, yeah, man, people are cool, religious people, non-religious people, it's all good. Just love people. And then, some shit goes down, and I go, hold on. The negative aspects of being associated with this religion definitely outweigh my melancholy about it, and it needs to be taken care of.
That is awesome, Eli. So tell me, why is it, I'm just assuming here, but why was it this, say, recent policy change that, because the church has done a lot of sort of shitty things in the past, but why was it this thing at this time now that maybe inspired you to take action?
Churches have a very long history, going way back, of being the last to accept social reform. Catholicism with fucking everything. Mormonism with, civil rights, things like that. And honestly, when the policy change was made, I went, man, that's fucking weird. That seems real schizophrenic by the church, because 50% of the community is totally for LGBT stuff. And then they started redacting things, pulling the teeth out of the change, and that is what put me off, because I went, hold on, you don't get to make an inherently evil decision and then give a gateway for people to be apologists about that decision, because that's so consciously being unethical, being aware of your shit fuckery and giving a people a way to rationalize hatred, which is uncouth.
So, people would say that, really what the church is doing is, well, and this is what the church itself said, was that, they're actually trying to clarify their position to not cause confusion in children or families that might actually want to be involved. What's your sort of response to that idea that, well, this is just really clarifying a position that they've always had, and why would people that are gay want to be a part of it anyway?
It's a snarky response. That is, sure, it is them saying, oh, well, we've always felt this way. But there's a difference between holding a belief sort of subterraneously in a community and then making it a systemic application of that belief. It's very different.
So, one final question. What would you say is the responsibility now of, the honestly hundreds and hundreds of members that I've heard that say, well, that's not me, I don't feel this way, I don't agree. They're still active, but in their hearts they don't agree with it. What would you say is now their responsibility since this policy has been codified?
Their responsibility is what they feel is right, and ultimately the hope is that them doing what they feel is right leads to some change either in their personal application of their faith, in their community, or in their families. And I'm not going to tell anyone what to do or what they should do or should not do, because ultimately it's something that's in your own heart. If you feel it's wrong but not wrong enough to say something, that's on you, and I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong for that. I'm going to tell you that the thing that you believe is probably immoral, but you're still a good person.
All right, so Eli, we have one little sort of coda that we're having everybody say. If you're comfortable with it, we are having people say to the camera, it's okay, you are loved, you can go.
Listen, dog, it's okay. You're loved, and you can go.
Eli, thank you so much. It was great.
Open up the gate to the church and let me out of here. Too many people have lied in the name of Christ for anyone to heed the call. Too many people have died in the name of Christ, and I can't believe it all. And now I'm standing on the grave of a soldier that died in 1799. And the day he died, it was a birthday, and I noticed it was mine. And my head didn't know just who I was, and I went spinning back in time. And I am high up on the altar. High.
So, Ryan, I'm going to give you the mic, and if you could just give me your name and then also why you're here today. What are you hoping to accomplish?
I just want to speak out against the church and support any children that are being ostracized from the community because of this new statement that the church has made, and just show that everybody is loved. I support every human, no matter what their beliefs are, and just hoping to show that I support anybody in the community.
And so, are you actually resigning today?
Yes, I have my letter with me.
Okay, so tell me, what is it that has sparked you to decide now to resign, and why resignation? Like, what does that really accomplish?
I just don't want to be affiliated with the church at all. I don't want them to include me as a member, my name to be associated with that at all. And just a lot of the stereotype from being from Utah, traveling outside of the state, the first thing people think is, oh, you're Mormon or you're a polygamist. And I just want to be able to say that, no, I'm not associated with that. No, I do support all types of love and Today I chose to resign just because I want to help flood their mailroom with a bunch of letters. It's not necessarily something that's been on the back of my mind on my list of things to do, but I have been wanting to do it for a while, and this just seemed like a good opportunity to join in with a good group of people.
So, what do you think are the actual real-life human impacts that the church's new policy is actually going to have on people?
I just feel like within more for the children in schools and public places, growing up, even I was raised Mormon, and so I saw firsthand that people that weren't included on things like birthday parties and groups, and they were looked down upon for not being a part of the church. And it's not really my choice that I joined. My parents just joined me for it. And I even grew up with a friend that had 2 moms, and kids would make fun of him all the time for it. And it's not his choice at all. I always thought that was really weird. So I just feel like it'll just cause conflict on the playgrounds and things for kids to look down upon and make fun of people for that. And I don't think that should happen.
So what would you like to say to anybody that is feeling inside of their heart right now that it's time for a change, it's time to take some action, maybe they're scared of leaving or stepping away? What would you say to people in that position?
That's kind of a tough question. I mean, but there's a lot of people to talk to about it with that if you're not alone in doing it, that's for sure. And that, yeah, if it might not be the right time for them, so whenever they do feel it's right or that they're not going to hurt anyone's feelings by doing it, that's not the intention behind any of this. It's to show love and support for everybody. So I would definitely encourage people to do it, but if they don't feel like the time's right, then the time's not right for them.
Perfect. So we have one little sort of coda thing we're having. You get your chance. Boom. We have a little coda we're having everybody say at the end of their interview, if you're comfortable, and it's basically, it's okay, you are loved, you can go. Comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Go and do it to the camera.
It's okay, you are loved, you can go.
What I want from you is empty your head. Will they say, be true, and don't stain your bed, but we do what we need to be free, and this leans on me just like a rootless tree.
Okay, so we have Melanie and Kira. All right, Josh, you running? So Melanie, right? Okay, so Melanie, I'm going to hand you the mic, and then what I'd like you to do is say your name and why you're here, and then hand it over to Kira and just do the same thing. Just your name and why you're here. And you can keep it short, so if it's just, we're here to resign from the Mormon Church, because I'll be asking you more questions later, okay?
My name is Melanie, and I'm here to resign from the Mormon Church.
My name is Kira, and I'm here to resign from the Mormon Church as well.
Thank you. So my first question is, why resignation? Why not just go? Why not just go quietly?
I had gone quietly for 22 years and just was inactive. And then when this came out, there's no time like today.
And same question for you. So why resignation?
Well, I think that it just is pushed over the edge for no reason. Like why shouldn't your kids be able to be in the church? Because obviously I like girls, so I'm going to want kids one day, and if I wanted my child to get blessed, I wouldn't be able to.
That was awesome. Just one quick thing. Keep the mic just kind of right about there, but it's okay. It'll still be fine. But you guys, that's awesome. So I've heard from a number of people say things like this. This policy is really just trying to clarify, trying to avoid confusion in kids, or why would, gay individuals want to be a part of the church? It's really for their own good. What do you have to say to that?
I think it's something they say to make themselves feel better.
I don't really know what to say to that.
I don't think anybody really knows. Yeah, that was maybe a rhetorical question. So, just in response to this idea that, okay, it's maybe going to reduce confusion, or maybe we could somehow pretend like this doesn't impact real people, maybe could you tell me what is the real human cost? What is the impact of policies like this in the lives of, I don't know, almost anybody, really?
I think it estranges families. This is my daughter. She's gay. If she chooses to have children and, say, had somebody that, like her father, that wanted them blessed, basically the church is saying, because your mother is Kira, you can't do that. It's ridiculous. It should teach kids to love their family and to love each other rather than wonder other things.
That was pretty good, actually. I'm happy with that, yeah. So, Kira, I'm going to ask you, what do you think the impact really is with a policy like this? Like, what does it really do to real people?
I think it really impacts the family, and, like, obviously a lot of people are here for their families, like, because they feel like it's not right for their family to be put, like, in this away from everybody else just because they're gay and they have kids that want to be blessed, which is stupid.
Well, I don't know if you've heard, but the Mormon Church is all about family, so our podcast gets a little snarky sometimes, but I'm trying to keep it nice. So, did the church ever have value in your life is the first part of the question, and if so, why step away in such a permanent way? I know you've been kind of inactive for a while, but you're sort of permanently losing your salvation, right?
The first part of that question, I was born and raised LDS. I was first married in the temple, active until 22 years ago when they had the September 6th that were all excommunicated for being gay, intellectual, or feminist. And I was 2 out of 3 of those things. The reason why it was important today to make that permanent is because this is my daughter, and I love her.
All right, so this is a final question, and both of you, if you could give me a quick answer. So what do you say to anybody right now that's not here but still is feeling that need to make a change, feeling that need to do something? What advice do you have to them?
I would say reach out and be true to yourself, because there's a lot of people, obviously, that are here and have had the similar feelings. So just reach out.
I'd say probably just that if you're confused about what you want to do, maybe come to something like this. You can talk to people, because a lot of people have a lot of information to let you know and maybe help you decide which route you want to go.
All right, that is awesome. So we have a little thing that we're having everybody say at the end of the interview. If you're comfortable, I think you will be. It's okay. You are loved. You can go. Saying into the camera. You all right with that?
Mm-hmm. It's okay. You are loved. You can go.
Hi, my name is Nikki, and I'm here because this is a decision that I've been thinking about for a really long time, and it feels really good to finally get it over with.
Hi, my name is Coco. I'm here to finally officially resign from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it's going to be a good life-changing thing.
So if you could, just tell me why here, why now, what does this prompt you to finally make this decision?
The policy change, the recent policy change for the Mormon Church is a big contributor to my decision on this. And I've been thinking about this for years. I've had a lot of doubts about the Mormon Church. I was raised in the Mormon Church, and I've always questioned it. And with all the recent change and with coming out and being able to build my own life on my own beliefs, I feel like this is necessary for me.
What was the question?
The question is, why now?
Why now? Okay. Well, this has just been something looming over my life for a while now. I haven't been active in the church for almost 2 years, and I'm obviously in a homosexual relationship, and that's completely against the church's stance. But I've just been wanting to resign for a while because I don't believe it. I've been just doing church things because that's what I was supposed to do. But now that I'm out on my own, it's just a really good decision, good time for me to be here doing this.
So a lot of people would say that, resigning only really hurts yourself. It's not going to influence the church at all. It makes no difference. What would you say to that?
I would say it's helping me because I don't want anything to do with the church anymore. And I feel like there's a lot of hypocrisy that goes on with statements like that. I feel so good about making this decision. And for years, I felt guilty because of how I was raised, and I felt questioned. I would second guess myself, and then I feel like being authentic with myself, this is what feels right to me, and it's my truth.
For me, this is a personal decision, but I myself, I know that the church doesn't have any authority over my life, so I just wanted to make it official, tell them that they don't have any authority over my life, and this is just how I'm living my life, and it's my life. So that's why I decided to do this.
Awesome. Just a couple more questions. So, did the church ever have value for you at any point in your life? I mean, I'll just say just that.
When I was younger, I haven't been active in the church for a good 7-8 years, but when I was younger and I was still figuring out my identity, I felt that it resonated with me because that's what my friends were doing. And now, for years now, most of them are all married off, and I felt so closeted, and I felt like I was hiding so many parts of myself, and it's not just the sexuality part, but just what I believed and how I thought, and even what I want to pursue with my own life. Yeah.
The church did have a lot of value in my life. I was active all the way up until I was 18, but growing up I was always in leadership. I was the Beehive president, the My Maid counselor, the Laurel counselor, and then the Stake Youth counselor. So I held a lot of responsibility in the church. It taught me how to be a leader and have a sense of community. It was really important for me at that time growing up because it helped me get a gauge on I can make a difference. But now it's become irrelevant in my life. It was just important for the sense of community, really.
So there's a sentiment out there that, once you leave the church, then, you don't know what to do at a red light, everything is black, everything that was white turns black. What would you say to anybody that is afraid to make that next step because they're afraid of what a life post-Mormonism could have? What would you say to someone like that?
I would say that to make this decision, it's a new beginning, and that this world is so big and so full of so many different opportunities and ways to create your life and what you want it to look like, and to create your truth and to create a sense of community and belonging, and it doesn't have to be with the church. And if that doesn't resonate with someone, then they should be open and free to pursue whatever they want to pursue.
Well, if people feel like they need a structured religion to tell them how to live their life, then they should reevaluate their morals, because I feel like everybody deep down, they have a sense of right and wrong, and that might not be the same for everybody, but if you just follow your heart really, then as long as you're not hurting people or yourself intentionally, then there's no harm in things if there's not a strict guideline and stuff around that. So don't worry about it.
It's okay. You are loved. You can go.
Over. Sandy? And what's your name? Micah. Okay, so Sandy and Micah.
My name is Sandy Newcomb, and I'm here to just be a support. I left the church in 2007, 2008. The new policy change does affect my sister and her family. I'm here in support with all of the friends that it does affect. I'm turning in my resignation today. I've been out of the church since 2008.
I've actually been out of the church since 2008 as well. I resigned formally in August 2008 because of Prop 8 and was here 7 years ago for the first protest against the church for Prop 8 passing on November 7th. And that crowd was phenomenal, and this, as is the one today. I have started a website, and since then, running lifeaftermormonism.com, or lifeaftermormonism.net, not .com. I always make that confusion. And so I'm here supporting everybody that I know online, and even those that I don't know, who are affected by the policy changes and affected by the damage the church does in dividing families by basically making kids have to choose, and not just kids, but even parents have to try and push for full custody or whatever, so that they think their kids can be full participants in the church. And even the clarification doesn't go far enough. I mean, what the First Presidency said on Friday, because it lets grandfathers and kids have been baptized, but what about their younger siblings? What about future generations of gays that marry straight people because of the church's influence and then have kids and end up divorcing as well? So, and at the same time, I know the church really does damage people enough that I recommend they should just all get the heck out of Dodge. But so that's why I'm here, is to support everybody and just let people know that they're loved and perfect just as they are. They don't need to be in the church anymore, which is why I have my sign saying that kids and LGBTs deserve better than the LDS Church.
Cool. So, in an effort to sort of dispel sort of the typical assumptions that I think a lot of active member stuff will make about people that decide to leave, could you tell me a little bit about what value the church had for you in your life when you were in it?
I think the value of the church when I was in it was the surface of the church I thought was wonderful. The family values, the friendships, I still see the close friendships in the ex-Mormon community because that is something that we learned and valued. Friendships between members and ex-Mormons now become severed, and they don't practice keeping those friendships once somebody decides to leave. I don't understand why they think that we are against them, rather than we left out of own personal reasons and factual truth that we found out. The amount of people that are losing family members, the family members that are being severed, that's not what the church is about. And with all of this coming forward, I think, as you can tell by today, more and more people are seeing the truth of what the church is about. And a lot of people want to live their life knowing that we can have valued friendships and family, and religion has nothing to do with it.
That is great. So, Micah, same question to you. Did the church ever have value for you at one point?
Well, I can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, because I grew up in the church. I married in the church. I went on a mission. I have 9 siblings, all of them still in the church. And fortunately for me, they've been good at still accepting us and welcoming us to the family gatherings, and they haven't cut off communication or anything with us. So the family values are still there, and they are, for the most part, good values, as long as they're not being or going to the distance of discrimination and dividing families up.
So I think this final question is particularly pertinent, given the website that you have. I know a lot of people are afraid to make the steps that they feel like they need to make because, frankly, life post-Mormonism sounds scary. Like, what does it entail? Like, is there happiness there? That kind of thing. So what message would you like to give to anybody that's afraid to leave and what life could be like afterwards?
That is a good question, because life is freaking amazing after you get out. You think you church from the inside, you're inside of a box, you're in a cave. You don't realize how well the rest of the world gets along without the church. You have the freedom to follow your own conscience. You don't have to follow what the church dictates for you to believe. And even though the church says you can openly support gays, they have conflicting policies, because now if you're a child of a gay couple, you cannot support gays, but they said just 6 months ago or whenever that you could. So life is just way freer after leaving the church. You can choose your own path. You can choose your own beliefs. You can have your integrity and follow it to a T, because you don't have to try and please your God, your church, and your family. You can please yourself first, and watch out for yourself and your family best.
I guess the real question, though, is how do you know what to do at like a red light? I heard when the Spirit's not there, you just have no clue. You just sit there motionless.
Well, the influence of the Holy Ghost, whatever, that's supposedly guiding you, and it was never there to begin with. What you thought was the Spirit was really just your own inner thoughts and feelings, and that's more than you need to make it outside of the church.
Well said. So, same question. Life after the church. I know you just resigned today, but you've been away from it a little bit. What do you have to say about anybody that's afraid of what that might have in store?
I've been in their shoes. I've been back many times because that's the LDS Church is all I knew. So you think that you have to keep going back. But once you meet people from the real world, there's a meme going around Facebook right now that has skeletons, and you have Christians, you have blacks, you have gays, you have every single lifestyle, and guess what? We all have the same skeleton, and I think that's just very true. And life after Mormonism is amazing.
Don't forget the 10% raise.
Free 10% raise, yeah.
It's okay. You are loved. You can go.
Now, every once in a while, there's a crack in my smile. Dark voices are talking to me. Dark voices tell me the way it's supposed to be. They said breaking up, they said it's hard to do. What they say about breaking up, though it's just not true. Break it up, it's easy to do. Break it up.
Yeah. There's never a spare moment, when there's not noise. So what we're going to do, something over there too. So I'm going to hand you the mic. I'd just like you to just, each in turn, just give me your name and short, because I'll ask you questions later to sort of enumerate. But if you just give me your name and why you're here today. All right? So we'll start here.
My name is Julia Gill, and I'm just here to have my name removed from the LDS records because I left the church a long time ago, and now I want to, get off their list because screw them.
My name is Carrie Mercer, and I'm here to get my name taken off the records because I am also inactive for many years now and don't want my name attached to any of that.
Okay, so I think the question I have is why now? All right, you guys say you haven't been active for a long time, so why now, why today? Helicopters, ambulances, notwithstanding.
Garbage in the background.
Oh, no garbage. Okay. We're going to kind of scooch ourselves this way a little bit. Okay. Pretty much gone now. So the question again, why today?
Well, I've actually wanted to do it for a very long time, but I've been told by a lot of people that it's a very lengthy process and it could take up to 6 months to get it processed. And we found out doing it this way, there was a lawyer on site that would take basically our letters of resignation and do it for us for free and get them, handed in with no problem.
Why today?
Today, so I left the church 17 years ago, and it never really mattered to me to make it official because I knew in my heart I wasn't a member and that I didn't care, and at the time that's all that really mattered to me. But in light of all their discrimination and hate, and now they're turning it onto the children, I saw that this group was getting together, and I wanted to be a part of it because I want to let them know that, no, we aren't okay with it. They are discriminating. They are just a negative church. And that's all I've seen in it for a very long time. So I figured if everyone's getting together and doing it, and I can get a little help with the process, then I want to join. I want to do that. Because like she said a minute ago, I don't want my name attached to that in any way.
So a lot of people, will make assumptions that, it never meant anything to you. Like this, if you're going to leave, then obviously you never had a testimony or anything like that. Can you tell me a little bit about if the church ever did have any value in your life at one point?
Oh, well, I was raised LDS, and I think I was raised to be a pretty decent person, so I told my mom I'm not doing this to discredit my upbringing at all. Like, I'm not trying to negate the fact that I was raised LDS, but living my lifestyle, it doesn't mesh with what they're telling me, so I don't want to be a part of it. So, I mean, family values maybe, but that kind of contradicts what they're, doing right now. I don't feel like these are family values that should be taught in anybody's family.
Right. And just the same question, did the church ever have any sort of value at one point in time in your life?
Hands down, sweetheart. So I was raised LDS. My grandpa was like a hardcore church worker. My mom was like really, really into the church. I was born into it. I was baptized by my own father at the age of 8. It was a big deal in my family, but I never had a testimony. I am a very logical person, and throughout Sunday school, all their teachings, it was like the Sunday school songs were fun when I was little, but once they started to get into the real lessons, none of it added up to me. None of it made sense. And I went to the girls' camps over the summer, and all these girls would cry and bear their testimony, and I couldn't, because I didn't want to be a liar, because that was bad. I listened to girls say that they didn't have a testimony and then get peer pressured into giving theirs. And it really bothered me, and it just never made sense. I never liked it. And by the time I was 12, we moved around a lot, so we didn't have that one solid church that we went to our whole lives. Chloe, knock it off. So by the time I was 12 and we were at a new church, my whole family, well, not my whole family, my siblings were being discriminated against very heavily because they didn't dress like a Mormon should dress, because my brother liked the Jinko pants, the big bell bottoms. And it just bothered me. I'm like, I don't believe in this. I never have. I've witnessed a lot of peer pressure, a lot of judgment, and now they're turning it against my own family based on physical appearances. And that's not the values that I learned growing up. My mom taught me to love everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, the color of your skin, where you come from. You love everybody else and you don't judge. So that's why I left the church, because I saw that is not what was being practiced, and I didn't like it. So no, I never had a testimony, but leaving it did have an impact on my family and my life. So it wasn't something I took lightly.
Awesome. So just a couple more questions, and we really appreciate it. So, one of the things that people like to, I think, do is sort of put people in boxes, and it's very black and white. And I've heard people use these two phrases. One, there's being in the church, and then there's the gay lifestyle, right? As if one has all the goodness in it and the other is somehow not. So could you guys tell me a little bit about what the gay lifestyle means to you?
To me, the gay lifestyle means that as a mother, I'm a good mother, that I teach my children to be kind and respectful and honest. I study full-time up at USU so that I can be a good provider. I don't do drugs. I rarely drink, and it's never around my children. I don't smoke. My lifestyle, I feel, is a very positive, happy, uplifting one, and I teach my children to be who they are no matter what. And so that's my lifestyle. I'm a mom. I work my butt off being a mom, providing the best home that I can provide. And that's about it. That's my gay lifestyle.
That was awesome. Anything you want to add or disagree with? Yeah.
This is my partner, and so partners in crime.
Yes. So one final question. What advice would you give to anybody that's frankly just afraid to make that final step, that final move, to separate themselves from the church, whatever that means, or just move to the next phase in their life? What would you say as it feels like people who have been through it?
It can be hard and very scary, but the thing that is the most important to keep in mind is that there's so much support out there. What you're going through is what tons and tons of other people have gone through, and if you are willing to look, there's so much love. There's so much support. There's so many different organizations. They're all over. There's ones that you've probably never even heard of yet, and they are all willing to step up, take you in, and offer you complete love and support. So even if you're cut off in one section of your life, it's going to open up a lot of doors in other areas of your life, and you will be okay. And it does get better. It's okay. You are loved. You can go.
At first I was afraid. I was petrified. I kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights just thinking how you'd done me wrong. I grew strong. I learned how to get along, and so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here without that look upon your face. I should have changed my fucking lock. I would have made you leave your key if I'd have known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me. Oh, now go walk out the door, just turn around. Now you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to break me with desire? Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and die? Oh, now I will survive. Yeah, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll be alive. I've got all my life to live. I've got all my love to give. I will survive. I will survive. Yeah, yeah.
Hi, this is Hillary.
Matthew. Ryan.
Carol.
Keith.
Ashley.
And I like to play bingo online while listening to Infants on Thrones.
You can comment on this episode on the website, infantsonthrones.com.
And if you really like what you hear, give the Quorum a 5-star rating and write a short review on iTunes.
I did. Anyone for the closing prayer?
All my life to live. I've got all my love to give. I will survive. I will survive.